You've been taught to dream, praise for vision, pep talks about potential, 1,000 follow your passion posts that make you feel like the only thing missing is a brighter idea. But what if dreaming has quietly become your most elegant escape? Right now, you probably know the feeling. An idea lights you up, you sketch a plan on a napkin, you feel momentarily powerful, and then life returns. Bills, emails, the discomfort of repetition, the sting of critique. That initial spark fades, not because the idea was bad, but because it never demanded anything of you. No deadline, no measurable step, no consequence for inaction. The goal was a wish wearing the clothes of intention. This pattern repeats until it does more than delay a project. It erodes your confidence. Each near miss whispers that you're almost there, and your inner voice learns to settle for almost. Napoleon Hill warned that many people drift past the razor-thin line between vision and illusion without even noticing. You don't go from hopeful to successful by polishing ideas. You go there by turning them into non-negotiable commitments inside yourself. So here's the difference. Vision is electric, but decision is durable. When the wealthy and the consistently effective make a choice, they don't simply hope. They rewire their habits, choices, and environment around that decision. They accept small daily frictions because those frictions are the price of becoming someone who finishes. That acceptance reshapes your mornings, your calendar, your conversations, and quietly, irreversibly, your identity. Over the next few minutes, you'll see how to stop flattering your dreams and start testing them. You'll learn the small, brutal practices that convert someday into deadlines and maybe into commitments. If this resonates, if the tug between dreaming and doing is a constant in your life, tap like. Where do you stand right now? Polishing ideas or making decisions that change everything? Leave a short comment. And if you're ready to step from ideas into results, subscribe and stay with me through the next segment. There's a razor-thin line between vision and illusion, and most people drift past it without noticing. You know the feeling. An idea hits and you light up. You imagine the result, feel the thrill, maybe even tell a friend. But then reality arrives. The early mornings, the repetition, the criticism, and you back away. That brightness of possibility fades into a half-forged plan that never faces the friction it needs to become real. What Napoleon Hill called definite decision is the antidote. Too often what you label a goal is really a wish dressed up in optimism. No deadline, no measurable steps, no true trade-offs. I'll write a book someday. I'll get in shape when I have time. Those sentences sound hopeful but function like placeholders. They let you feel good without changing your behavior. The result is predictable, a loop of hope, half-effort, and recurring frustration. Every abandoned project quietly erodes your belief that you can follow through. You see the pattern in everyday moments. You sign up for a course, then skip the weekly lessons. You brainstorm a business idea, then avoid the first awkward conversations that would show whether it will fly. You tell yourself you'll handle feedback until someone actually gives it. The discomfort of repetition and critique is the exact pressure point that separates an idea from a result. Avoidance keeps you safe in imagination. Engagement forces you to grow. Contrast that with what consistently successful people do. They convert dreams into non-negotiable internal commitments. That doesn't mean they never feel fear. It means they make decisions that alter their daily rhythms. Appointment-like blocks of work, public deadlines, accountability, and an acceptance that small, consistent actions beat sporadic inspiration. Those internal commitments reshape your habits, your calendar, even who you spend time with. They produce relentless persistence because once a decision is made, you stop negotiating with yourself. So here's the moment of truth. Will you keep polishing dreams so they shine from a distance? Or will you make an irreversible decision that forces motion, iteration, and growth? If this landed for you, give this video a like. Where do you find yourself right now, dreaming or deciding? Subscribe to follow the next steps in turning those decisions into results. You're used to thinking in possibilities, which is not a bad thing. The problem is that possibility often stops at thought. You feel brilliant for a moment. You sketch a plan on a napkin. Then life shifts and the plan becomes a pleasant rumor. Napoleon Hill called this the difference between a definite chief aim and a wish dressed up as a goal. You know the pattern. No deadline, no real accountability, no cost attached. It's safe, comfortable, and it keeps you from failing or from succeeding. Look at your day. You light up with an idea during a commute. Then by the time you're home, it's a good intention. You promise yourself you'll start tomorrow, but tomorrow keeps moving. You try the routine for a week, then skip 2 because it's inconvenient. You avoid feedback because critique feels like judgment. These small, repeated retreats add up. It's not just missed outcomes. It's a quiet erosion of trust in yourself. Each unfinished promise chips away at confidence until even the next idea feels risky. Now imagine the alternative. The wealthy, not always in money, but in outcome, don't treat dreams as optional. They convert them into internal contracts, non-negotiable decisions that live in the muscle, not just the mind. That looks like a deadline that scares you, a public commitment that raises the stakes, daily practices that feel boring but compound, and a willingness to be corrected. You make choices that are uncomfortable today because you've decided that the person who shows up to discomfort is the person who wins. This shift reshapes how you spend energy. You stop debating possibilities and start scheduling increments of progress. You measure, you adjust, you endure repetition. Habits replace wishful thinking. Commitment creates momentum. Momentum rewires identity. So here's your moment. Will you keep polishing beautiful dreams that never leave the dresser drawer? Or will you make an irreversible decision that forces behavior to follow? If this landed with you, tap like, subtly. Where do you sit now, dreamer or decision maker? If you want guides who speak plainly and push you toward results, subscribe and let's build that muscle together. You know the pattern because you live it. A rush of clarity in the shower, a late-night scroll that sparks an idea, a friend's success that feels possible for a minute. You light up. You even sketch a plan. Then the first hard thing arrives, a morning alarm, a spreadsheet, the comment that could sting, and you recoil. Not from the dream itself, but from what it demands, repetition, critique, imperfect days. So you stall. You rationalize. You wait for a better time. The idea cools into another almost. That loop doesn't just delay results. It chips away at something quieter, your confidence. Each near miss becomes ammunition for the inner voice that tells you you're not focused enough, not talented enough, not resilient enough. The next idea meets that voice even before it lights up. Over months, your identity shifts from someone who starts to someone who considers. The cost is cumulative and insidious. It's not one failed course or one unfinished draft. It's a steady lowering of your internal standard. Now watch the alternative, the one Hill points to. The wealthy don't merely want. They decide, in a way that changes their day-to-day. Decision is not a thought. It's a boundary you refuse to cross. You turn maybe someday into a non-negotiable commitment. That changes everything. You schedule the work before inspiration can show up. You sign the public deadline. You trade the adrenaline of ideas for the quiet muscle of habit. You make small, boring choices that stack. The consistent practice, the controlled exposure to critique, the measurements that make progress undeniable. You can start that shift today. Pick one dream and give it 3 things: a deadline, a minimum daily action that's actually doable, and one person who will ask you about your progress. Make the commitment visible. Write it down. Put it on your calendar. Announce it. When discomfort comes, don't interpret it as failure. Read it as a signal you're crossing the line. If this lands with you, tap like. Where are you right now? Polishing dreams or making decisions? Subscribe to follow the next video where we convert one wish into a real, irreversible plan. You feel the tug of 2 lives, the one you rehearse in your head, and the one that actually requires you to stand up and be counted. Napoleon Hill called the difference definiteness of purpose. He wasn't romanticizing ambition. He was naming a switch. A thought is easy. A committed decision rearranges your day, your relationships, and how you spend your smallest units of time. Look at how vague goals lull you. I want to be healthier sounds inspiring until Tuesday evening rolls around and the couch looks better than the gym. I'll write a book someday fades when your calendar fills with other people's urgencies. The pattern is predictable. An idea fires your enthusiasm, then the absence of a deadline, a measurable step, or a willingness to be uncomfortable kills it. Hope without structure becomes recurring disappointment. Now picture the alternative. When you convert a dream into a non-negotiable inner decree, everything shifts. You don't wait for motivation. You design for it. You pick a time each morning to practice the craft, tell one trusted person your plan so it's no longer private, and treat missed sessions like real consequences, not minor setbacks. Those small constraints forge new habits. Repetition kills hesitation. Critique becomes feedback instead of a threat because you've already chosen the outcome. That's the real work Hill described. Faith plus persistence, anchored by a clear, measurable plan. It's not mystical. It's the daily grind of showing up when your brain wants novelty instead. The wealthy aren't immune to fear. They're simply better at deciding that fear won't run the schedule. You don't need to overwhelm yourself with grand promises. Start with one irreversible decision today, a deadline, a public commitment, a tiny ritual that signals you mean it. That single choice will compound into a pattern. In time, the erosion of confidence flips. You stop doubting whether you can change and start proving it. If this lands with you, give it a like. Where do you stand? Still polishing dreams or ready to make an irreversible decision? Subscribe to walk through the next practical steps together. By now you've seen the trap. Ideas that feel like oxygen but behave like sand. The missing piece isn't creativity, it's commitment. What separates people who keep dreaming from people who achieve is a single, stubborn decision, turning that wish into a non-negotiable internal command. Start small and be surgical. Pick one outcome and give it a firm deadline. Make the commitment a statement you write and say aloud every morning. Not a fuzzy hope, but an irreversible sentence. By June 30th, I will. Say it until your body stops arguing with your words. Attach a simple ritual to that sentence. 5 minutes of planning, an accountability text, a 15-minute practice session, whatever fits your life so you can repeat it without friction. Design your environment to honor the decision. Remove the easiest escape routes. If distraction wins first, strengthen the path to discipline. Schedule uninterrupted blocks on your calendar. Put your phone in another room. Tell one person who will check in. The wealthy and consistent don't have fewer temptations. They have fewer options. Embrace the discomfort of repetition. You'll have days that feel miraculous and days that feel mundane. Both matter. Track small wins publicly or privately. Each logged step turns hope into evidence, and evidence rebuilds the confidence that vague dreaming erodes. When you start measuring, you stop guessing. Finally, give yourself limits. Ironically, fewer choices make commitment easier. Decide what you will not do as clearly as what you will do. Commitments are sculpted by subtraction as much as by addition. This is less about raw willpower and more about building a system that makes the decision inevitable. If you've been drifting, ask yourself honestly, are you polishing your idea, or have you crossed the line into making it unchangeable? If this lands for you, give the video a quick like. Where are you right now? Refining the dream or ready to decide? Tell me in the comments. If you want clear, repeatable ways to turn decisions into results, subscribe and let's keep building those habits together. You've felt it before. A bright idea arrives, and for a day or two you carry it like a secret warmth. Then the habit of avoidance shows up. No calendar entry, no messy list of steps, no one to check in. That's the threshold Napoleon Hill warned about. Dreams are intoxicating until they aren't. Without decision, they collapse back into someday. The result is predictable. Bursts of enthusiasm, half-effort, and a slow leak of confidence that makes you doubt the next bright moment before it's even had a chance. So what changes when you cross the line? You move from hoping to deciding. Deciding is the quiet, unromantic work of making a dream non-negotiable inside your own head. It means attaching a deadline, naming the cost, and accepting the daily tedium that precedes any meaningful result. It means converting inspiration into a ritual, a 30-minute block every morning, a weekly review, a single metric you track no matter how small the progress. That shift, from optional to obligatory, rewires your choices. Suddenly you rearrange time, say no to distractions, and start tolerating the friction learning requires. You'll also need friction of a different sort. Make backtracking harder. Put your decision on paper. Tell one person who will hold you accountable. Automate a penalty if you skip a commitment. These aren't loopholes to punish yourself. They're engineering moves to protect the intention you've sworn to honor. And when critique comes, treat it as data, not judgment. The wealthy don't avoid feedback. They invite it, refine rapidly, and persist. This isn't about perfection. It's about a consistent, stubborn practice that plants a new identity. I am the kind of person who finishes what they start. That identity, reinforced by small wins, rebuilds your confidence faster than any pep talk. If that resonates, give this a quick like. Where do you stand? Still polishing ideas, or ready to make an irreversible decision today? Subscribe to follow the next step if you're done living in the world of ideas and ready to produce real results. By now you see the difference. Dreaming feels safe because it asks nothing of you. Commitment demands everything. The people who move from idea to outcome treat their visions like contracts with themselves, not pleasant suggestions, but terms they refuse to break. That's the muscle you're learning to build. Start by naming one outcome and making the conditions non-negotiable. Pick a deadline. Write down what done looks like in concrete terms. Then carve out a ritual, a 30-minute block, 3 times a week, where you practice the specific skill or task that moves you toward that finish line. No planning, no excuses, no someday. When the clock starts, you work. When the clock stops, you record progress. Design your environment to make the decision easy. Remove distractions that feed the daydream. Add cues that trigger the work. Tell one person what you're doing and schedule a check-in. Accountability translates intention into direction. Public commitments make quitting costlier than continuing. Measure tiny wins and celebrate them, because repetition is the scaffolding of confidence. Each small completion rewires your identity. You stop being someone who wants and start being someone who does. You'll also need to invite discomfort. Growth is a series of small denials of ease. Expect criticism, mistakes, and slow stretches. Treat them as proof you're on the right path, not reasons to retreat. When a setback comes, respond with the same question you ask when you succeed. What's the next smallest move? Then do it. This is where vision turns into reality. When you decide irrevocably, and then prove that decision 1,000 times in tiny, boring ways. The accumulation of those choices compounds into outcomes. The point isn't talent or inspiration. It's the quiet, relentless discipline of everyday actions aligned to an unavoidable decision. If this landed with you, give it a like. Where do you stand right now? Still polishing the idea, or ready to make the decision irreversible? Share below, and subscribe to see the next steps for turning that decision into momentum. You already know the difference between a bright idea and a lived reality. One is airy and breathable. The other is heavy with consequence. What most people never do is make that heaviness intentional. They keep treating dreams like ornaments, pretty to look at, easy to move aside. The wealthy and the relentlessly effective treat them like contracts with themselves. That shift is small in language, but massive in outcome. You stop negotiating with inspiration and start enforcing it. Start by making one internal rule irreversible. Pick a single goal and give it a non-negotiable deadline. Not someday or when I feel ready, but a date that aligns with real discomfort. One that forces rearrangement of your calendar, your conversations, your habits. Then anchor that date to an identity statement. I am someone who finishes X by Y. Your brain doesn't argue with identity the way it argues with wishes. Next, engineer your environment to honor that contract. Remove easy exits, delete apps, block time, hand over a task to someone you trust, or set a small financial stake that you lose if you don't show up. Build tiny rituals that signal the start of the work. 5 focused minutes, a dedicated workspace, a single preparatory action, so the first step loses its mythic size. Those micro wins create momentum and rebuild confidence faster than sporadic grand efforts. Expect friction and plan for it. Discipline isn't a burst of heroism. It's a pattern of small recoveries. When you falter, document why and adjust only one variable. Learn to tolerate the boredom of repetition. The repetition is the quiet architect of competence. Invite critique. Criticism from the right people sharpens your aim. Treat feedback as a data stream, not a verdict on worth. This is not about abandoning dreams. It's about giving them a legal framework inside you. Choose one dream today and sign it with a deadline, an identity, and an environment that supports follow-through. If this resonates, tap like, quietly, if you prefer. Which one commitment will you stop polishing and actually make? Share it in the comments. If you want straightforward tactics to keep that commitment, subscribe and we'll walk this process step by step. You've been taught to dream, and that's been useful. But dreaming becomes a refuge when it replaces decisions. Napoleon Hill named the difference. A wish is a wish until you force it into a plan with a deadline, discomfort, and a cost you're willing to pay. Right now, you probably know the pattern. Idea lights you up, then the first dose of repetition or criticism cools the glow. You retreat. You tell yourself you'll try again tomorrow. Confidence erodes, not from failure, but from never committing long enough to learn. Here's the quiet truth. Most goals are polite suggestions you give yourself. They're vague, negotiable, and easy to shelf. The wealthy, and the people who get real results, don't borrow hope from dreams. They convert hope into non-negotiable internal commitments. That shift is small in words, massive in consequence. You stop asking, will I, and start deciding, I will. You build rituals. You track the days you show up. You let critique shape you instead of scaring you off. You don't need a dramatic overhaul. You need an irreversible decision. Set a public deadline. Block it on your calendar. Tell one person who will hold you accountable, and accept the boredom of repetition. Make the first rule in your head non-negotiable. No excuses on weekdays. No skipping the practice. No trading tomorrow for comfort today. Those tiny constraints change how you spend attention, and attention compounds. This isn't about punishing yourself. It's about honoring the thing you say matters. When discipline becomes simple habit, confidence returns because it's earned daily. You'll find discomfort loses its power, and progress becomes the obvious outcome of consistent choices. If this lands for you, give it a like. Little signals matter. Which will you choose? Keep polishing the dream, or begin making irreversible decisions that make success inevitable? If you're ready to move from ideas to results, subscribe, and let's build the habits that turn your next dream into reality. Block 11 of 12. You've seen how easy it is to dress indecision in the clothes of ambition. Now imagine the opposite. A version of you who treats a dream like a debt you owe yourself. That shift, from wishful thinking to a non-negotiable internal commitment, is not dramatic. It's deliberate. It's the small daily choices that stack until your life rearranges itself around what you've decided to become. Start by noticing the tiny tests. Do you hit snooze because practice feels uncomfortable? Do you skim a book and convince yourself, I'll get to it, instead of setting a page count? Do you daydream about a business while scrolling through other people's successes? Those moments are diagnostic. They tell you whether the dream lives in your stomach or in your mouth. If it lives in your mouth, it will stay a story. If it's in your stomach, you will feel a quiet, stubborn pain until it's acted on. Make one change. Make the decision irreversible. Buy the class. Tell a friend, and set a public deadline. Book a refundable free but scheduled session that forces you to show up. Those small acts create friction for retreat. Napoleon Hill called it definiteness of purpose. Not a pretty phrase, but a powerful one. When your choices carry consequence, your behavior follows. Expect discomfort. Discipline is repetitive. Feedback is often corrective. You will wobble. That's not failure. It's calibration. Each time you resist ease and do the work, you rebuild confidence that was quietly eroded by postponement. Over time, repetition becomes identity. What once required effort becomes who you are. Right now, make one irreversible decision. It doesn't have to be massive. It has to be binding. Say it out loud, set a deadline, and commit to the first measurable action. If this landed with you, tap the like, small signal, big intention. Then tell me in the comments, are you still polishing dreams, or are you making irreversible decisions? Subscribe if you're ready for the steady, disciplined work it takes to convert vision into results. You've seen the pattern. An idea lights you up for a night, a week, sometimes longer, until discomfort arrives and the idea quietly becomes a memory. Napoleon Hill pulled that curtain back and showed you the razor-thin line between vision and illusion. The difference isn't talent or luck. It's a decision that becomes non-negotiable, a small set of behaviors you refuse to trade away. Right now you might be polishing possibilities instead of building commitments. That's safe. It cushions you from risk and from the shame of failing. But what it also does is erode confidence slowly, day by day. Dreams that never face deadlines, discomfort, or criticism quietly rot into someday. The pivot isn't dramatic. It's deliberate. You convert a wish into a contract with yourself and start living by that contract. So here's what matters as you walk out of the world of ideas and into the world of results. Choose one outcome. Give it a deadline. Accept one daily friction you will do even when you don't want to. Make one irreversible move, a public commitment, a paid course, a resigning of an option that keeps you safe. The wealthy and the fulfilled don't wait for feeling ready. They legislate readiness inside their lives. That internal law then shapes choices, habits, and courage over time. You don't need radical heroics tonight. You need a clear, simple first step that you won't cancel. That step changes everything because it proves to you that decision is more powerful than wishful thinking. If this landed for you, tap like, quietly acknowledges the shift. Now tell me, what will you choose today? Keep polishing the dream, or make a decision you can't take back? Drop your answer in the comments so you can be seen and held accountable. If you're ready to stop editing ideas and start producing results, subscribe and let's walk that commitment together.